Hello, my name is Larry Johnson. I'm the owner of Soaring Eagle Lodge. I'm here at Bob Marriott's today, excited to give my presentation, and we call it Heaven on the San Juan. Now, I was just asked what is so unique about the San Juan. It's probably the ecosystem for a trout fishery located in the high deserts of New Mexico. The nation's foremost tailwater. We have a bottom drop dam, so it's a 300-foot earthen dam. It runs about 165 miles and eventually dumps into, used to be the Colorado River, but now is Lake Powell. Because that water comes out of the bottom of that earthen dam, it's a pretty constant 45 degrees all year round, which of course makes not only a perfect trout habitat, but with the amount of sunlight and unique type of food patterns that we have here on this river, it really makes it kind of a Disneyland for trout. It's estimated that there's probably 7,000 to 9,000 trout per linear mile. So the only thing we ask when you wade that river, you don't step on the trout. So, and it's pretty much known as a rainbow fishery, but the browns, they haven't stocked for 20 years. And I don't know if they're acclimating to the cold water or whatever, but when I would fish what we call the famous quality waters, kind of from the Texas hole up to the dam, if I caught one brown in a week, that was a lot. Now I'm catching 3 or 4 a day. Up in the top, because the water's so cold in the famous quality waters, up here, people do try and fish. You're actually allowed to fish a single barbless hook, so you can pull a spinner through there or a Mepps or something like that, but only a single. And the fish don't eat them because the water's so cold and there's just so many midges. Even when we try and fish streamers and stuff, when the hatch is on, that fish sees like pulling a T-bone steak across in front, and I'm still concentrated on the midges, and they'll just sit there and eat those midges for hours. As soon as the hatch is off, then you switch to a booger, a woolly booger, or a streamer. You have a whole different program going and stuff. But when the hatch is on, it's usually better to stay with that. So, and as we can see, there's actually, with the San Juan, I say you kind of get 3 rivers for the price of one. That first 4 or 5 miles, the classic tailwater, ice cold water, very small bugs, very small flies. The next 5 or 6 miles, which are facilities in, is called the midsection of the river. Down there, we get up, when it's 85, 90 degrees, we get up to a whopping 51, which is huge in temperature, even though it's 45 to 51. And down here we'll get caddis, we'll get bigger PMDs, we'll get a much more diverse entomology than you'll see up by the dam. With the dam we get some nice good bluewing hatches, with small and big ones 18, and then the midges anywhere from 28 to 22s we're fishing up by there. And then another 6 or 7 miles past me, you'll find that the river gets up to almost 62, 63, and it's primarily brown trout. And down there we're fishing big dry flies and also streamers. In the morning until the dries start coming up, it's some very, very good streamer fishing. When I started fly fishing, I used to say there's 5 stages. First I wanted to catch a fish on a fly, then I wanted to catch a lot of fish on a fly, then I wanted to catch a big fish on a fly, and then I wanted to catch a lot of big fish on a fly. Once you get past that, it's the fish. I go out for 4 or 5 hours. I'm lucky enough to live on the river. But I don't care if it's 6 inches or 60 inches, I'll be looking for that fish, and I'll tie on a nymph, I'll tie on a dry, I'll tie on a streamer, but I'm going after the fish. I said rainbow, that's primarily, we got kind of a little different mix. I don't know if that's a leopard rainbow, but some people quote all these different fish as they come in and see them. But rainbow, like I said, is the primary fish source. But to come back in there, that's that Snake River cut. That was caught, luckily, in a big oxbow in the river. You would never landed that fish. He caught that on 6X on a size 22, we call Big Mac pupa, which is a midge larva. Our guides take pride in making sure that the handling of the fish are correct. I mean, we always give you a chance to get a grip and grin, but make sure you wet your hands, get up there and get a nice picture and stuff. You know, that's part of the experience too. Midge, it's midge is our primary food source, but don't overlook the mayflies. We get a great Baetis hatch or bluewing olive, however you want to call it, but they're Cal Baetis, and like I said, Most of the time they're small ones, 22, big ones. We can get some 16s, but 18s, 20s, 18s. We do get some March browns, and that's usually seasonal. One year it's a pretty good year for them. Some years you hardly see them. But the caddis, that is an event that people sign up for usually a year in advance. And that's unfortunately only below the quality waters, because the quality waters, the water's just too cold and the caddis don't thrive up there. So you got to have that water temperature up over 50. And we get 3 waves. We're very lucky. With the state of New Mexico, through our ecological friends, and I have to say conservationists too, they kind of talked me into doing this big spring flush every year. And so we used to run a pretty steady, 800-900 year round and stuff, but they said that's not the way nature does it. You know, in the spring the water comes barreling down. So we actually open the dam up every May, and we try and do it with the historical rise of the animus, so it gives the best impact for the environment. And that's not just the fish, but the willow catchers and whatever other animals that live on the river in there. As far as our flies, obviously the famous San Juan worm, yes, it's real. The San Juan worm is actually an annelid. It's not a bug, so it's an aquatic worm that spent its whole life in the water. People call the midge larva an annelid. It's not an annelid. It's actually a bug, and it looks like a worm, but it's not a worm. San Juan worm, and I know there are other places. I've really never seen them in the quantities that we have in the San Juan. I don't know why that is. Maybe the temperature of the water and the sunlight, but they're everywhere on the rocks. Wherever it's rocky, you could, and a heavy flow, because they creep out from under the rocks and then get blown off, and the fish are just waiting there to pick them off. And I'll go over the colors and stuff later. We have basically 3 or 4 colors that we fish with them. And then we have the midge larva, which is similar to that. That's what I call an AM fly. The midge, and the difference between that and say a mayfly, the midge has 4 stages of entomology. You have egg, larva, pupa, 5 if you count dry, emerger, and then fly. We're a mayfly, we're egg, pupa, emerger, fly, and stuff. So we are fishing the midge larva again in about 3 color choices, which we'll show you when we go over the flies themselves. And around a morning, what I'll do is we're allowed to fish on the San Juan 2 single barbless hooks on a fly, but not, I'm sorry, on a rig, so 2 flies, but you cannot have more than 2 hooks. You can't have 2 hooks on 1 fly, so you can't fish like a streamer with an articulate, with a stinger at the end. You can't fish that. You can only have 1 fly, but you are allowed to fish 2 of them. So we'll set up our midge rig with a larva on the top and a pupa on the point, and then you have a weight, and we usually have some kind of indicator. And with that, what actually is happening is the weight's going down first. They see the larva, but 7 out of 10 times they're going to take that point fly because they missed the first one coming by, and then they say, well, I'm not missing the next piece of food. So it'll be the pupa. And our pupas, again, we have about 4 or 5 different colors that are pretty productive that we fish there. As soon as we start seeing fish tailing, anywhere between 11:30, according to how warm it is, to 12:30, then we take off our larva, because we know the bugs are pretty much up in the water column, and we put on our emergers. I leave the pupa on because everyone that's turning into an emerger has to be from the pupa stage. So we're fishing emerger and pupa, and then the same thing with the betas. And in the autumn to spring, we start doing very well with egg patterns. And we fish a small, about a size, I would say, big one 16 or an 18 hook with a small puff egg in either like an Oregon cheese or salmon color or pink with a red dot. And what happens is our browns start spawning now. They start going off right around Thanksgiving. The colors are just beautiful right now. I fished before it came up. And the rainbows are sitting back there having a munch fest. And then the rainbows will start about the middle to the end of January and finish up at the end of March. So eggs are pretty good right through, like I said, autumn to spring. And then after that. Now, if you want stockers, get down to Baitwater, put an egg on, you catch them up. So, take a look at some of the nymphs. I try to get the colors right, but of course with the computer it's not always good. But the primary color is red, Then we kind of do a lot in a wine, kind of a maroon color, or a rusty orange. And those are the three primary San Juan worm colors. And again, we use that kind of grub hook, very easy tie. Put them on, just tie them on the top, tie them on the back, 3 reps, tie them off. Our eggs, again, the color, like I said, this would be more that pink with the red dot on it. The Oregon cheese, and then some guys will fish the real hot green ones. I don't do pretty well on that. I do more like the cream and the lighter colors. And again, that fish is usually from probably December 1st to April 30th. Woolly buggers, any pattern will work. I've got some bragging rights now. I finally got one of mine tied at Pacific Fly, so we call it the SEL 505. That's our area code, kind of a gangbanger fly out here in New Mexico. And we do that in olive, we do that in black, we do it in white. Nymphs, here's our midges. Again, there's got to be a billion patterns of those. This, I picked out the 3 different kinds. That's our midge larva. You can tie them on the TM called red hooks. You can tie them on, some people just use a red hook with no fly in it. That would even work too. And again, we're fishing these big ones, 18 to 22s usually. And we tie them in red, olive, and cream. With cream and red being your primary, red being the most significant.